Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
All right. Do they have a broadcasting school?
We do. We do have the best broadcasting school, I believe, in the nation.
Did you attend it?
I did.
Okay, just asking.
And I passed my classes. I did pretty well in my classes, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And somehow I ended up here with you.
Didn't say life was perfect. All right. Florida comes back, wins. So the SEC finally wins something.
We finally got a win.
Yeah, the Big Ten won the college football championship, the women's basketball championship won by the Big East, and it looked for a long time like the Big 12 was going to win the college basketball title, but down there it just means more. All right, so yeah. Not an aesthetically pleasing game, but when you have a team that is so reliant on defense and offensive rebounding, it normally is not going to be an aesthetically pleasing game.
Yeah.
Walter Clayton finally found a rhythm and finally found some shots late in the game that made a big difference in allowing Florida to come back and win it. Now, the last 8 minutes happened to be exciting because they closed the gap. They were down by 12. They were able to get this thing tied. Houston went back in front, tied it again. Houston went back in front, tied it again. So that part was exciting. Mm-hmm. The time to get there, the relentless defense, the deflections, which, look, every coach in the country preaches this. Mm-hmm. Coaching across the country spends more time on defense than they do on offense.
Offense is easier to handle because even when it's bad, you can at least tell a player they can go get a shot. Defense, you need to know what you're doing at all times. You have to be locked in 24/7 because if you're off for 1 second of a 30-second shot clock, 1 second means the difference between 0 points and 3 points.
All right. So this is what, again, most of the game is not an aesthetically pleasing game. It's a game coaches appreciate because there is such heavy emphasis on defense, block shots, deflections, alters, everything that goes with it, just disruption out there. Fans want to see some scoring. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't mind great defense. No, they appreciate great defense, but they want to see a balance between offense and defense. And it was a game that spent most of the time with a balance toward the defensive side because, as I've said 1,000 times, it is exponentially easier in basketball for teams to slow the game down than it is for a team to speed up a slow team. It's very difficult to speed up a slow team.
Yeah,
it happens. It absolutely happens. But and now the end of the game, if you're wondering why Emmanuel Sharp went up and then the ball's there and he didn't grab the ball and shoot it, it would have been traveling and it would have ended it right away.
And for those fans who are saying...
Because the ball was not deflected. He went up and he dropped it.
Because he went up to shoot and he realized, Walter Clayton's hand is going to block this.
Right.
I at least have to give us a shot of something. Right. And so he immediately puts it down next to him and assumes, okay, hopefully whoever is nearby will come and grab the ball. And I thankfully have not seen a lot of people going at him because he doesn't deserve any of the negativity. No one does.
Right.
I mean, LJ Cryer after the game said, look, the possession before that, I turned it over and I lost us the ball. Right. And that caused a lot of problems. So he was like, if you're going to go at him, go at me. Like Sharp got the ball, went up to take the shot. He didn't think Clayton was nearby because in his defense, Clayton fell asleep for a second. And then he goes up and Clayton has an incredible play and goes to block the shot, and Sharp has to drop it, and then here we are.
Well, he just dropped it as a reaction, and he can't be the first person to touch it. It'll be traveling and kill the play, so he's got to roll the dice at that point that one of his teammates comes over and cleans it up. And it's a hard way to lose a game, and Houston didn't have a timeout remaining. Because they didn't have a timeout remaining, you could tell that the set they were running was out of sync. You could just tell they weren't. Everything was rushed and discombobulated out there. But again, how many times have I said end of the game scenarios? Oh, yeah. The good ones make Sports Center.
Yeah.
Okay?
You're right.
There aren't that many good ones.
No, there are not.
Because you're dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Also, the other part, too, is there is always a failure of most. And again, I always tell people, do your own thinking. Right? The pack is following the end of the game. And that's fine. What about the other 40 minutes? I'll tell you the key sequence to me in the entire game was actually when Houston was up 10 in the first half and Florida closed to a 3-point deficit at halftime. That got them within the confines of being able to play. Now, I know they fell behind by 12, but say they had still been 10 behind it or 8 behind at halftime and not 3. It changes everything as to how you're playing the game and how they play the game.
I remember this is the exact same thing that happened. Penn State was at Wisconsin.
Yep.
That they went into halftime with a somewhat decent deficit versus whatever it was. It was like 12, 14 points. All of a sudden they closed it to small single digits. And you and Dick going into halftime are like, they needed that because if they didn't get it, you lose a lot of your hope of like, maybe we can come back in this game. But in this case, Florida closed and said, okay, we're only down 3. Like, we're a shot away. Right. We can keep ourselves in this game.
Again, you're down a possession at halftime. It's a different feeling than being down 8 to 12 at halftime. Because now, again, when you're falling and when you're playing from behind, you may make a run, and they hit 2 shots, and now it's like, okay, now I got to make them more ground again. But they were able to eventually catch them in the game. Condon started playing pretty well. I thought Martin played very well. Clayton, when you could see the entire lift of the team, not just him, but the lift of the team that our guy got a big shot. And Florida hit its free throws. They hit its free throws. I thought Houston was going to go to Roberts at the end. I do. And they just never could get the ball there.
They could never get the ball, neither to him nor to any of the shooters at a decent position. The best shot they had was when Sharp got the ball. If Clayton is asleep for half a second longer, he gets the shot up, or if he's able to pump fake and predict by some craziness that he knows Clayton's going to be there. That was the only chance they had because Cryer and Uzan kept getting the ball around that right wing way too far outside. Like, they could tell they wanted to get just any little bit closer. And you could tell they wanted the 3, which, as we've discussed, they didn't need. But at that point, if you're them, they were kind of in the position of underdog because they could tell it had all slipped away from them. They needed someone to make a shot. Cryer at that point was 4 of 11 on the night. So you're like, give it to the hot hand. He can try and get us into this game to stay alive and to put us ahead. And if we miss, Tugler, Roberts, whoever was in the game at the time, Francis, I think, could rebound it.
They couldn't get the shot. Nope. So Florida wins it. Florida never really played a great game in the tournament. I thought the best game they probably played was the Auburn game in the national semifinals. The other 4 games they played well, but not great. Last night they played well, not great, but they're a deep team. It makes a big difference. They were fresh at the end because they are a deep team. I thought they were in deep trouble at the beginning of the second half when they picked up 5 fouls in the first 2.5 minutes. Yeah. I'm like, okay, because, we're talking free throws here. If you're going to get into the bonus that early. But Houston, that's a tough one. You could just see the looks on their faces to be that close, to have a lead, to be a great defensive team playing with the lead, and to not have it go your way. That's tough for all of them to swallow. They're an excellent team. They are well coached. I think they're a smart team. They're not a great offensive team.
No.
And the game never got to 70 last night. 65 was the winning number in the game. It'll probably get very good ratings because of how close it was. The ratings for the Final Four on Saturday were the highest in 8 years. The highest in 8 years. You're already having the usual day after stories about who the favorites are next year without knowing who the players on the teams are next year.
The only ones we know are some of the commits for next season is about all we know. Because
right now in college basketball, they're in what's called the dead period. The dead period will end on Thursday. It reopens everything on Friday. That means that in the dead period, there's no face-to-face contact with a recruit. You can call them, you can text them, you can do any of that, but they're not going to come to campus. You can't go see them.
Nope.
The earliest that can happen is Friday. Football is in what's called the quiet period. Right now, the coaches can't go to your place, but the players can come to yours. Okay, so that's the quiet period. I mean, I'm giving you very simple rules here. I try to explain to Jerry, for example, that the dead period means that none of us here in the building are allowed to see him. What? I just thought it was, it seemed like I was helping the rest of the company when I said that. So let's get to the other important part. I want to get to the Claudia Wilkin.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask about next. The other part of this, the other news that came out yesterday, the House settlement is inching closer to final approval. It is not there yet. Wilkins has not approved anything.
Right.
But the language she used was, I think it's a good settlement. We're nearing it, but there's still some issues to work out.
But I want to say this about what she is doing, because this is a judge that walks into the courtroom prepared and ready to go. Her questions yesterday showed that she gets what's going on with all this, that she understands the ins and outs of the settlement and what the problems happen to be. One of them is, and I thought she showed great wisdom with this, that walk-ons should not be cut out of this settlement, that it should be grandfathered in, and then eventually you get to 105 once those who are currently there now finally have left their respective programs. That is the kind of judicial wisdom that you want to see. That told me everything about her, that she walked in there ready with the right questions and wasn't just performing it. Okay, well, yeah, we're good.
Because how many players does Penn State have right now on their roster, Steve?
In the spring, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah. They played last year with 124.
So let's say it's 124. And if the
now remember, some players have left, like Abdul Carter, Tyler Warren. They have left. They've been replaced by recruits. I don't know what the number is right now.
Let's just say it was 124. Let's say it was still 124, all things considered, and this deal goes into effect. Let's say it happened without the grandfathering part. What would happen to the 19 kids?
You'd have to sit down and talk to each one of them. And there are some schools. See, Penn State hasn't done this yet. They've had loose conversations like, hey, look, let's just see how this plays out first. There have been some schools that cut to 105 already.
Yeah.
Not many, but some have already done it. Now you're looking at this. And what she suggested was a phase-in for roster limits. The wisdom of that, as I said, speaks volumes. She suggested collective bargaining is a better way to establish a compensation cap, but it's also not a part of this case, so she's not going to push it. Again, what have we talked about? Collective bargaining.
She is just suggesting it for the future of this would be necessary.
Her biggest issue is that there's a binding, that it binds future athletes to the 10-year deal. I don't quite know what she means by that. It sounds like whatever it is, it's workable. She is not leaning toward the blessing of the NCAA's current rules as part of the settlement approval. Good for her. And she has talked positively about the high number of athletes who have filed claims for back pay. That's fine. I'm not quite sure what she means about the binding future athletes to the 10-year deal. I mean, I don't know what that means. A 10-year deal is a 10-year deal. In other words, this cap is going to go up 4% every year. So the cap this year would be $20.5 million. Okay, so 4% next year brings it to $21.3 million. 21.3 in year 3 is going to go to 22.2.
And so on and so forth.
Right? Then eventually it's going to get to the next even number up there. It'll get to $30 million before it's all said and done. To me, future athletes that sign on with schools understand what they're signing up for. It's there in black and white. So I don't really understand why there is a problem with this. Now, she did talk, maybe it's about the third-party NIL regulation. I don't know.
But the short of this, at least, is that we are moving closer to a deal, as expected, and we're now at the point where, as you've brought up, there are only so many questions to be asked, and there's only so many changes to be made, where the majority of this has been dealt with, written through, and there are only a few more things where, in the case of the grandfathering in players and walk-ons, things like that are slowly getting taken care of. And the goal is, my presumption is, this will probably be wrapped up in a month or so. Is that a fair?
Well, they're going to meet again in a week.
Okay.
And, for example, part of the issue in this, what's interesting is that, I'll tell you what she was not interested in listening to. And this was the other part that I found to be very interesting. She was not interested at all in listening to Title IX on the revenue sharing cap. She said it's not part of this agreement. She had no interest in it at all. Now, to me, if you were to come back, and again, because it's not in the settlement, so you got to sit down. If you were to sit down as the NCAA and talk to Steve Berman, who's one attorney, and Jeffrey Kessler, who's the other attorney, that's why whenever I had people on the show like Jim Delaney, I said, Jim, excuse me, I'm just going to, instead of using the actual name like House, because the name changed all the time. I said, I'm going to refer to it as the Kessler case. And he laughed. He says, sure, okay. He says, I can't, but you can, sure. And if you were to come back with the grandfathering of the walk-ons in the deal, I think that might be enough to check mark and say, yeah, go ahead with it, only because, A, it's the easiest thing to do, and it showed you a willingness to follow her guidance. Right? I think the other things, I think she would probably, it sounds like okay with everything else. But she was not interested in listening to Title IX arguments about it. And that's what I found interesting.
There's a lot of weirdness.
The part about the future athletes being in, that part, I don't quite know what that means. And somebody, if somebody can explain to me what that means, the binding of future athletes to it, well, it's a 10-year agreement. I mean, if I'm a high school athlete, I'm bound by it because I agreed to it. It's like okay, I want to play ball. And that's the part I'm a bit confused about what she means by that. I would like to hear what that explanation is, because I don't know what the explanation is. Okay.
Yeah. When it comes to going away from the House settlement, going away from all of this going on in the NCAA.
Well, I mean, but this is
the big stuff.
Look, this is like last night's game was fun. The Final Four was fun. The Frozen Four coming up on Thursday is fun, right? But in reality, this is the biggest story.
Yes,
this is the meat and potatoes story,
the biggest story.
And so she's ruled in a lot of these cases. So several people asked her to reject the settlement because it could lead to the elimination of thousands of roster spots. Now, she addressed that.
With the grandfathering.
Right, with the grandfathering. And under the current deal, the rule would go away if the settlement is approved. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this is, of course, to keep the wealthiest schools from stockpiling talent.
Yeah.
They've expanded rosters. Doesn't mean you have to fill all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Gannon Flynn, for example, a freshman swimmer at the University of Utah, who spoke at the hearing, said his coaches told him he will not have a spot on the team next season specifically because of the settlement. Well, Gannon Flynn has an argument.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is going to be, when this settlement goes through, will Utah have a swimming program? I don't know. Because we're talking about a lot of money here.
Yeah.
She suggested yesterday that, again, they should keep their spot even if the team goes over the roster limit. She says she wants it grandfathered. She also said, quote, it's not that expensive, and, quote, it would generate a lot of goodwill.
It would.
Again,
mm-hmm.
I give her major props for that. Now, they're not allowed to mandate.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't, in other words, they can just sit down and go, well, we went through it, but this is it.
Yeah. She's making suggestions.
Yes or no. She can make suggestions. That's why I think if they were to take that suggestion
mm-hmm.
to show that they're willing to work with her, because it's the easiest one to do.
Yes.
Steve Berman said that we are standing by our settlement. We think it's fair. If the NCAA wants to grandfather it in, that's up to them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Rakesh Killaru, who's not exactly covered himself in glory in all this, he was the lead counsel for the NCAA, said he needed to speak to his clients about any potential change to roster limits, but he remained optimistic the settlement would be approved. Right? And fine. I think go back and talk to them about that. Again, that's the easiest one to handle. Okay? Then there was the discussion about the back pay being unfair to female athletes. Men, especially football and basketball players, are expected to receive 90% of the damage payments, but she wasn't buying any of that. In other words, she watches TV.
Mm-hmm.
No offense. I mean, that's what the TV contracts are about. There's also arguments about creating a new antitrust violation by capping how much each school can spend on athletes. This goes back to the collective bargaining thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have some sort of antitrust protection, but that can only come from Congress. They appear to be dealing with other things right now.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they can't. Well,
there's a lot going on right now.
Doesn't mean they can't do two things. I take that back. Okay. So Berman said he is hopeful it'll only take a few more weeks for Wilkin to grant final approval to the deal. Schools are planning to begin paying their athletes effective in July. Jeffrey Kessler said he is confident Wilkin will make her ruling in plenty of time to keep the plans to pay the athletes this year on track. So they're going to meet again on Monday.
And the thought is, as you mentioned, it'll be done before the end of April. It's kind of the projection.
I think it seems to be. It seems like the end of this month. That's why I did say, I don't know, about a month ago, I said April 7th, but it's not just April 7th. I said that's just the next court hearing.
That's speaking of college and players and pay, the Carolina Panthers did something interesting that I wanted to ask you about. Carolina Panthers on Monday signed former Coastal Carolina D1 basketball player Colin Granger to a football contract to go and play for them. He's 5 years removed from high school, so he's able to sign as a free agent now. He was eligible to be drafted last year, so he was not forced to go through the draft process, essentially, as a quote-unquote college player. This is something funky. This doesn't happen often. We don't see a lot of just, like, he's going in here without having ever played football. He's hoping to try and follow in the footsteps of the likes of Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, Jimmy Graham, the basketball to NFL pipeline as a tight end, because he is 6'8", 245, which is notably large. What do you, I guess, make of this? I guess is the best way to put it.
No, you're just looking.
It's funky.
Look, you're just looking. If you'll take flyers on people to see, there's no harm, no foul here. It's just you're going to take a shot on a guy who has the size, athleticism, and to find out whether he can make your roster and play for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about all this is. It's nothing more than that. It's an area of interest, no question. It is an area of curiosity, no problem. I mean, I have no problem with any of it because if it works, he may help them. If it doesn't work, they'll cut him and go to the next player. I don't think it's anything more than that.
Yeah. And next up, this is a personal one for me. The Champions League quarterfinals begin today. Arsenal takes on Real Madrid in the Emirates Stadium in London, and then Bayern Munich takes on Inter Milan at the Allianz Arena in Munich. And then tomorrow, Barcelona plays Borussia Dortmund in Spain, and Paris Saint-Germain plays Aston Villa in Paris. So,
Liverpool's the best team.
But Liverpool has been eliminated.
No, they're the best team.
Well, they have been eliminated.
No, they're the
and
best
Arsenal's
team.
got a chance. We have Real
In fact,
Madrid.
I think they gave them the trophy already.
The Champions League trophy, the one that they're not in anymore. Yeah, I see your smile over there. Just trying to get me riled up. Won't happen, Steve Jones. It won't happen.
Are you sure?
I know. Craziness.
You are breathing into a bag.
I am breathing into a bag. I'm also breathing into a bag because there were rumors of draft stuff. Because, of course, we're in big draft rumor season. I saw a few NFL insiders put on social media. I think Darren Jeremiah put it of like, don't look now, but scouts are saying there's going to be 60 first-round picks. And I thought that was funny. Because all the agents are like, yeah, this guy's going to be a first-rounder. So is this guy. So is that guy. And then I forget who it was, came back and said, yeah, don't forget there's going to be 35 top 10 overall picks in the draft. So in case you weren't aware, there's 35 players that are going in the top 10 picks, Steve. In case you didn't know.
It's a lot of players.
There are a lot of players.
By the way, could I just give you one quick note?
Yes.
Senator Ted Cruz is drafting a bill that could provide limited antitrust protections for schools, including identifying players as students, not employees. So just to let you know, there's something brewing in Congress over that. So just figured I'd drop that in.
Just a note.
35 players, top 10?
35 players, top 10.
This is the way. Okay. All right. One of the running jokes we always would have about Dick Vitale praising players. And he always praised players. I mean, look, an absolute credit to the game. I mean, he's legendary for a reason, and his style has always been fun. But when the season is over with, there are about 45 players that are first-team All-Americans. Like, that's a lot of players.
Yeah.
So
you look at the Big Ten, the Big Ten player, the Big Ten first team. It's like 8 players, and it's like that's not how that works.
Right.
I don't think.
So the and you're going to get this with mock drafts and everything like that. All these players that have had great careers, but how do they measure up in the NFL? How high did they jump? Oh, my God, I think he's a first-round pick. He ran the 3-cone drill. Like, really? Did you look at the video? No?
You know what I've enjoyed seeing, though?
Video tells a story.
I know.
You're going to Green Bay for it?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not going to Green Bay this
Come
year.
on! It'll be a lot of fun. What about, let me ask you something. It's in Pittsburgh next year.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there in Pittsburgh next year. It's been all but confirmed. I'll make my way there. The problem is I'm not going this year because we have a lot going on. And, it's going to be a busy week that week. We have the Blue-White game that Saturday. The Sunday is our Mac and Cheese Festival. I then have my birthday on the Monday. And I don't want to be within a span of a week be in Green Bay and rather not be there.
So your birthday is the 28th?
It is.
On the Monday.
It is the same day as Jay Leno's birthday. And I believe Jessica Alba, I think. It's a good birthday. You know what story is fun, though? It's going to happen in Green Bay. Rumors on the street, because, of course, it is the season of bringing in athletes for the different interviews, the different workouts, whatever.
You're allowed to bring in 30.
Apparently, less teams are bringing in Tyler Warren because, and I quote, we already know we're getting out of him. He's incredible. He's amazing. The character isn't in question. The work ethic isn't like they're like we've got no questions for him. Like he might be the least questioned athlete.
And do you think
ever?
And do you think he cares?
No. But it's also him being like, yeah,
like I saw him the other day. He goes, "Hey man," I go, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like that's how he is. It's not like, "Hey," yeah.
But I just find that funny that all of the teams are like, we don't need to bring him in for workouts because we know what we're getting out of him. We don't need to bring him in for interviews because we know who he's like. Like we've got no questions.
I haven't watched SportsCenter in months and months. Mm-hmm. And Dan Orlovsky, the former UConn quarterback, was breaking down the draft, and he broke down Jackson Dart, and he broke down Abdul Carter. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about Carter to Cleveland, Carter to Green Bay, Carter to New England, or does New England trade the pick? Yeah, and there was a lot of elements that were going. You're sitting there going, okay. I'll never forget the year the Eagles made the trade with Dallas and flipped spots to move ahead of the Giants and take Devontae Smith. And it looked like the Giants were going to take Devontae Smith.
Yes.
Well, when they took Devontae Smith, I'm sitting there and I go, beautiful. Take Micah Parsons. You're all set. Mm-hmm. And then Gettleman trades with the Bears.
Yep. Trades down to 20.
And the Bears, of course, take Justin Fields. The Cowboys are like, you got to be kidding me. They take Micah Parsons.
We traded down, and we get Micah.
and Gettleman takes Kadarius Toney. I'm like, Kadarius Toney? I said, he won't be in the league in 5 years.
I believe he's not in the league as of right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I know.
No, but I'm saying, I'm like, he's not going to be in the league in 5 years. This guy can't play. Right? You had a chance to take Micah Parsons? So now I get to go back to Abdul Carter. Oh, they may trade back. They may do this. They may do that because they need an offensive tackle, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Guys like Carter, okay, don't come along that often.
Once in a generation, athletes only come on once.
Take the guy, right? There are other offensive tackles in the draft. You can get them. You'll be fine. Okay? Okay, no offense. There's no Anthony Munoz in this draft.
No.
Okay, there's no Jonathan Ogden in this draft. You have good ones, but you don't have generational talents.
No.
At offensive tackle. You will upgrade if you take one of them, probably. With Carter, you're going to get a game wrecker. Okay? Well, we don't know what they want to do. I'm like, oh, I know what I'd do. It wouldn't be that difficult. I'd figure it out.
And as things stand right now, the current projections are that Carter will go 3rd overall to the New York Giants. Of course, reports have come out that Brian Daboll found himself here in State College, Pennsylvania for breakfast Monday morning.
Well, he knows how to get here.
Yeah.
Brian's son, Christian, was one of the signalers on the sidelines for Penn State for a couple of years. So the Dabolls as a family have been here before. As the former student of yours, or still current student of yours, Landon Tengwall put it, shout out to them for finding somewhere to go breakfast-wise in State College the same weekend that all of the different parents were here for a big fraternity sorority type of weekend thing going on. So all the breakfast places were booked up. Somehow they found a place to go. But they did, and now the rumors are looking like Abdul would go about 3 because Cam Ward would go 1, Travis Hunter would go 2, and that would then mean the Giants are sitting at 3. And if you're them, how do you pass on Carter when you can have Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau as a front, like 3? Yeah, there'll be a lot of conversation about Shedeur Sanders here at this point.
There is, and there's a lot of rumors that a certain other team, picking at number 9, would take Shedeur Sanders. Which I don't know how I feel about.
The Saints?
The Saints. And I'm
well, look.
I'm not against it. I just don't know how I feel about it because as the Saints are sitting, we know we're not going to be good. So I'm not opposed to taking a rookie.
So let me say this about Shedeur Sanders. I think he sees the field well. Mm-hmm. I think he, in short to intermediate range throws, I think he's very accurate. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think any stage is too big for him. Deep ball, he's okay. No offense, he's only okay in the deep ball. And when you're in the position of being a drafted quarterback, and I'm about to say something I've said on the show many times, but you're not going to have the greatest offensive line in front of you. No. You're going to take a beating. Shedeur Sanders, you can talk about all the Rolls Royces and about his dad and everything you want about him. But you know what? I watched that kid the second half of his season at Colorado in 2023 get the living daylights beaten out of him. Mm-hmm. And he kept getting up and never complained. Yeah. And kept getting up and never complained. Kept going back, huddle, let's go to the next play. And they kept beating the daylights out of him. Mm-hmm. For the most part, this past season when they went 9-4, he was allowed to play until they got to the bowl game with Arizona in the Alamo Bowl. Mm-hmm. And they beat the daylights out of him. Mm-hmm. Every time I turned around, even when he completed a pass, he was on his back. And a number of times he got sacked, and I mean got hit. And he kept getting up.
Yep.
And that told me how tough he is, and didn't complain. Mm-hmm. Right? Told me how tough he is, how mentally tough he is. He's got something here. Now, the other part that he's not great at, I think there is an assumption. Mm-hmm. There is an assumption, in part because of his dad, that he is an incredible runner. He is not. Mm-mm. He's actually not a great running quarterback. Yeah. He really is a guy that wants to be within the pocket. It's interesting because Shiloh, the safety, has a lot of speed traits, things like that. Shedeur does not. He's really not. I remember when they played TCU in the opening game of the 23 season, and he played really well.
Yeah.
And Colorado won the game, and TCU was coming off the national championship loss to Georgia, but they'd gone all the way to the title game. So it was a significant moment for Colorado to go down to Fort Worth and win that game. And I remember the first thing, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watched Jackson State football. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, cut me a break. I mean, even the Celebration Bowl, if they're in that, I would have watched it for 5 minutes. And I remember thinking, I thought he'd run more. Again, you just one of those assumptions you make about a quarterback. I thought he'd run more. Then you watch a couple of other games he said what, he doesn't really run. Now that's the other part. I talked about him getting the daylights beaten out of him. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because he doesn't move away from pressure very well.
No.
Now, he's getting a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. They're coming at him in waves.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking, it's coming at him in waves. Mm-hmm. I mean, there probably isn't a lot of room to run, but he's not really great at escaping. Although the game-winning touchdown pass he threw on the final play of the game, and I can't remember who the heck they were playing, he did roll to his left, got away from everybody, and he fired it downfield. And it wasn't Hunter that caught it.
It was one of the receivers caught it.
Yeah, and they won the game. Right now, that one he moved, but escapability didn't appear to be one of his key traits, and he's not somebody who pulls the ball down and just takes off and suddenly gets you a 30-yard game.
But that's why I'm not. All the things you've said are why I'm not opposed to it. I'm not bad at banging the door down, being we need to go draft Shedeur, but I wouldn't be terribly mad about it because, as a Saints fan, we for 17 years had a quarterback who couldn't throw far downfield. Drew Brees was not known for being a downfield passer. Mm-hmm. He couldn't do it. Right. His arm, especially in later years, 40-yard throws were about the distance you could get him to go as a deep shot. It was tough beyond that. So I wouldn't be opposed for it. He also isn't going to be forced to start immediately because Derek Carr is a serviceable quarterback. Mm-hmm. And he also isn't coming into the literal worst offensive line in the NFL. because Eric McCoy is a great center. Talisi Fuaga is a really good young player.
They still have Ruiz at guard.
Ruiz is still at guard. Trevor Penning has shown positives and negatives, so right tackle's an issue. But left tackle, your blind side of your Shador, Fuaga's really good. Your center and McCoy is really good. And then you've got Ruiz, who you feel positives in. Penning, you're not sure about. The left guard's the big question, but you can fill that in the draft or going forward in the future. So you're sitting there, you're saying, okay, he's not going to get beaten up every second of the game. He's also not going to play a lot, which is okay.
But look, he'd be your franchise quarterback for a long period of time. Everybody's looking for somebody like that.
And that's why I wouldn't be mad.
The evaluation of him has been very unfair. To me, it's been the equivalent of watching College Game Day on basketball when they put up the blind resumes. Team A is ding, 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 ding. Team B is right, and then you look at it and go, oh, so that's Northwestern. That's really good, and that's North Carolina, and that's really. If you took the name away and just looked at him as a quarterback, a nameless quarterback, I think he'd get far more positive reviews than he's getting. Because he is his father's son, and because of, at times, how the Sanders brothers have conducted themselves on the campus, Rolls Royces. I know a lot of people are taking electronic classes. I strongly recommend against that. Be a part of the student body. Go around, experience it. You're 18 to 23. Experience it. Go to class. Meet other people. Right? Be around it. There's no need to be sheltered. And believe me, it's not like some guys here don't take some online classes. They do. But for the most part, they have to go to class here. Right? I think it was important for them and important for their father to encourage them. Hey, look, take classes. I mean, I'm telling you, they took classes, but go to classes.
Penn State players notably all go to classes. Right. They're all there in the front row.
It's not like some don't take some video courses. I mean, no, it's not like some don't. Some do. But the vast majority of them are in a class, in a classroom, around other students, doing class work and also interacting with other students. And I think that's part of the experience at Colorado that the two of them apparently have missed out on. Now, they haven't missed out on the locker room part, the camaraderie part, the team part of it. They haven't missed out on any of that. But the ability just to mingle with other people and just be a part of what's going on the campus.
That's why I remember, was it Luke May, after either the Final Four, after the championship, or after the Elite Eight, when he was in class 8 a.m. the next morning after North Carolina had won, and he was there bright and early, front row.
Right.
And it's like that. There's something to be said about that, where it's like you're a part of campus still.
Yeah.
You're as someone I went to Syracuse, and
so you saw nobody.
I know. Someone who was a part of campus who I saw around all the time was Buddy Boeheim.
Yeah,
and everyone thought Buddy can go be wherever, do whatever, because he's Buddy Boeheim. He's the whole campus celebrity, all this stuff. Buddy was hanging out with everyone. He was out and around, having a great time. You'd see him walking around campus all the time. He was just there, one of the people.
Yeah.
And that was who he was. And there was a lot of respect students had for that, where it's like, as a student, you see someone who's the same age as you, but very clearly has a different level of fame to everyone else.
Right.
It's like, I'm me. I'm a student in the same college you are. And there was something nice about that and refreshing. And as you said, they've kind of missed out on that a little bit.
Well, I remember when Chuck Tanner was the manager of the Pirates, his son went to school here. Right. And he was like, hey, he was around us. He was always just one of the guys. Like, hey, I hope Dad wins. It's like, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's important. There's still an importance of being around a college campus. Now, I realize there is more individualism today. In other words, the number of people that walk around campus today wearing earbuds, for example, listening to whatever, or they're on a scooter doing whatever. But there's still a lot of things that go on in this campus. Let's just take what we do. Com radio, to me, is a great melting pot of people coming together collaboratively to do work, or Center County Report doing work together, where everybody, it's an interactive exercise. The more of that you have, the better. I think you don't want to miss out on experiences. I know Shedeur Sanders has always wanted to be a professional quarterback, and he has a chance to do it. But being on campus, I think he would have benefited tremendously by doing it, just because he would have done it, and it's something he would have remembered the rest of his life. I also think for the people at the University of Colorado that have been like, hey, this is really great. He's in my class, the whole deal. He's actually a great guy. You know, it's like, okay, you benefit from that.
Or even in the case of just like, you're going to insert local, like Huron College or Beaver, bunch of food places. Let's say it's 7 p.m. on a Thursday, and you're in there, and it's you and Drew Aller. You're like, oh, Drew's just like me. He wants to grab himself some chicken and rice, a nice chicken and rice bowl from insert place here.
Right.
Like, there is a lot that you can do to just not garner goodwill, but to be understood as a human being sometimes that a lot of college athletes have that like pros don't, because it's a whole different thing in the professional realm. But in college basketball, you have the year. College football, you got 3 years. You can stay, if you're at the same school, everyone could know you in certain places, and you can just become one of the people and one of the students. And that's why it's so almost quote unquote cult-like, and why college football is so close to like European soccer and European football, because it's the same thing where you're one of the people and everyone loves you for that.
Right.
And not being in class or not going to the classes like Luke May does. Like, the Carolina fans love him because dude came to class at 8 a.m. the next day after winning a title. Like, there is a lot happens because of that. And
well, again, it's an experience that to me, you should cherish every experience you have and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Because you never know which experience is going to be one that sticks with you the rest of your life. Bypassing something that's pretty much handed to you. I mean, it's like a choice. I decided to like just go to the football place and I'll take my test here, or I want to do it from my apartment. I think that deep down you'll regret the fact that you weren't mingling in campus, even if it was for a couple of years. That's me. But
it's like everyone always jokes when they're in high school, like, I want to go to college to have the college experience. Part of that is just being in college and being around people and having a great time with friends, with family, with meeting new people. Like, I have friends that I've met from different countries. I've met from different places around the U.S. and just...
Do they watch this show?
They do.
I'm just trying to get the ratings increased.
But you go and just... being in college is like, there's nothing like it. And I know in the past, a lot of athletes have talked about it, how they've been like, I went for 1 year and I kind of miss it. And I miss being in college because I only got a year of it. Or in the case of a lot of the basketball players before they can go to, like a LeBron, for instance, who didn't go to college, I think talked about how he was like, I kind of would have loved to have gone to college, but at the same time,
you can tell he would have. I mean, he would have enjoyed it. Yeah,
he would have gone to Ohio State, and he would have crushed it with the program, and he would have everyone would have. College is so different to everything.
Well, I mean, you know how many college games he goes to.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like being a college student is different from literally everything else. So missing out on the quintessential part of it, which is being a member of the college. And like going to class and going to get your books from the library and going to the 5 different cafeterias around the campus, if there's 5, and going to get food that you're like, this is good, but like there's something to be said about it. And they missed out.
I mean, because they didn't really experience, they probably don't think they missed out.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's a good chance they did at least on something. Now, again, their idea of going to Colorado was to get to, with all due respect, the pros. But does that make them bad for thinking that way? No. Every single athlete recruited in the Power Four, every one of them, I would be shocked if any of them didn't say that when they entered school, they expected this to be the next step, because they've had nothing but success before this point.
Yeah.
That's why they were recruited by Power Four schools. So they've got to be thinking this will be the next step toward me getting to the pros. They know it's going to be hard, but and all of a sudden, 2 weeks into training camp, reality sets in. This might be. There's some people who are like, all right, I'm on track. I'm where I need to be, and there are going to be others like, I've got a lot further to go than I thought.
I always loved the reading of different comments from different athletes who are like, yeah, like later in life, you hear from different. I've heard a lot of different basketball podcasts of them being like, yeah, you're the guy in your area, in your county, in your state. You win the state title. You're feeling good. And you go to like Kentucky. You're like, I'm the guy.
Right.
You get there. And there's 14 other guys who are in the same place you are, who all were the guy at their high school and were the big shot and took the big shots. And now all of a sudden, you realize that there are levels to this.
Yeah.
And that's what I've enjoyed, but like I'm always intrigued to hear, because it's like reality sets in real fast when you get there that first day. I assume you've seen and heard a lot of stories of Penn State football players who they get there day one. Let's say it's his past year as a freshman, you get in, and you're like, I'm going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden you get there and you're a defensive end or an edge rusher, and you're like, I'm going to play. And then you look up, you're like, oh, but the future first overall pick is there.
Yeah, right.
And there are levels to this.
That's a problem.
Yes. And I'm assuming Abdul probably had something similar happen when he was a freshman coming in and being like, I'm not starting immediately, because, spoiler, there are players who are really good that are starting.
Nuts. Yeah.
There are levels.
Yeah, but there's certain guys you do look at right away as an observer. Just as an observer, you're like, he's going to play. He's really good. But I don't sit there and say, when I see them, like, oh, he's going to be a pro.
Yeah.
I'm always like in the moment, like, okay, you know what? I think he can help this team this season. Then as the season goes and you see some improvement in some things that they're doing, like, okay, he's got something to him. It's by the middle of the second season where I start to think to myself, okay, I wonder if this guy is going to be a 3-and-out guy. Okay, it's about the middle of the second season you start to, because there's so many things that can happen. I mean, there's so many. Suddenly you get stunted in your development because there's something you can't pick up, or you get hurt and it sets you back. And in the time that you're out, you fall behind in something. I mean, there's all these different circumstances that happen along the way. And then there are others that even though they may get hurt or whatever, they keep going. You could tell. Middle of the second season, Barkley's going to be gone in 3. You can tell by the middle of the second season, Micah Parsons was going to be gone in 3. Right? You can tell Abdul Carter was going to be gone in 3, even though I did not anticipate a position switch until the end of the year. Then they made the position switch, and you're watching him handle the position in the spring. Went, yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he is good to go.
Yeah. So
all of this happening. The men's basketball tournament wrapped up. I also want to shout out here. We, of course, had our Seven Mountains Bracket Bonanza going on when it comes to sports. I want to shout out the winner of our bracket tournament. Mr. Mark Dwyer was the winner. He, of course, picked Florida to win. He won our bracket challenge at the same time. Don't know if you saw this. There was some person on ESPN who went 62 of 63 on the women's bracket. They missed one game. It was an 8-9 matchup, I believe, Indiana versus Utah State in the first round. They missed one game, and outside of that, perfect. 19-10 out of 19-20 total points.
But I would like to know how many brackets the person filled out.
I know.
I mean, that's the part where you can do all sorts of combinations. I don't get all that.
But regardless,
I'm not impressed by that at all when they're doing 120.
I'm not impressed by it, but I think it's still a cool thing to see. Is because so often we see, oh, my bracket fell apart after the first game, which mine did because I picked Louisville because I'm not smart. And seeing things like that where it's like one game early screws up everything else later. Yeah. It's like, oh boy. I know here in the office, I believe I beat your bracket out. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, good.
I think. We both had, I believe, the same finals of Duke St. John's. So, not great.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yet I told Jack to take Florida.
And
I did.
Worked out pretty well. The last thing before we wrap up is it is a crazy week of sports. Of course, you've brought up the Frozen Four is going to be on Thursday. Penn State's going to be in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And also...
They leave today. They leave today to go to St. Louis because tomorrow, like in basketball, the open practice, they have an open practice. That it's free to the public tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where, for example, all the broadcasters, and I think Buchagras is doing the game.
Yeah.
For ESPN, but they'll get a chance to sit down with some of the Penn State players, with Guy and so forth, and that'll be tomorrow. That's where they pick up all those little tidbits of information.
And that's going on in St. Louis at the same time. Down in Augusta, Georgia, will be the Masters. So that is also going on.
It really is a
week.
Tradition unlike any other. No, this is. You'll have a slightly different look at some holes. 10 will look a little different. 12 will look a little different. And 16 definitely will look different because of all the tree damage from the storms that rolled through, the hurricanes that rolled through. And that's that area of North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina that got hit pretty hard. So there'll be some changes there. But there's nothing like – now, this morning here it snowed. There's nothing like sitting there on the weekend in April and seeing dogwoods and azaleas in full bloom and the green grass of Augusta. The one thing you can't appreciate about it on TV is the up and down nature of the course. It is such a hilly course. I mean, the greens are the undulation and all over the place, and plus they're fast. And I mean, then you try to get gentle with it, and suddenly from 20 feet you're three putting. And it's a great test. While the U.S. Open, and I'll be covering the U.S. Open at Oakmont. I've been approved on credentials for that, so it's going to be my fifth one I've covered. So I'm pretty used to the lay of the land. They rotate that around. It's great for the U.S. Open to rotate around, where suddenly it's at Pebble Beach, then it's at Oakmont, then it's down at Pinehurst, and so forth. But there's something about the fact that this is where they play it every year. That makes it, the most popular tournament by a wide margin. And with all the talk between LIV and the PGA, everybody that is eligible to play in it plays, regardless of tour.
Yep. It is going to be good. We got a couple of days until that begins.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.